All right, to just get started, we'll just start down the line here. Just describe, introduce yourself and your company.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Hi everyone, my name is Ifeanyi Emesih. I'm the founder and chief executive officer of a company called My East Coast Experience Media Group. We're a media, marketing, publishing, distribution, and entertainment brand here in Halifax. Our core goal is to tell stories of immigrants like myself who have come to the region and found success in an effort to encourage other immigrants to come and stay. Our brand has a few touch points. We have an international film festival called the Mosaic International Film Festival of Arts and Culture, which we launched to help, immigrant and local filmmakers tell their stories through filmmaking. We also have on a magazine that is published and distributed um, 4 times a year, and there's a total of 40,000 copies of distribution. We have a digital platform. We have an in-house creative agency, and lastly, we have our signature event, which is celebrating the most inspiring immigrants in Atlantic Canada.
That was really interesting. I'm Lucinda Underwood. I'm the owner of Kickstart Coaching and Consulting. So it's a small training and consulting firm based here in Halifax. I specialize in sales and marketing strategy and work predominantly in the automotive industry, which is actually my background. So I train and coach sales professionals to help them sell more, basically. Yeah.
I'm Ingrid Deon. I'm the CEO and founder of WordCraft. WordCraft is a social media marketing agency headquartered in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. We specialize in organic social media marketing, which means that we don't do paid ads. So we do the posting consistently for our clients on their social media platforms to engage their loyal fans rather than trying to sell to new people. So we work with clients like Nestle Canada. We work with Manulife Bank. We just got RBC Wealth Management. We just got King Cold Tea, which I'm super excited about because I love tea. But most of our clients are in consumer packaged goods. We work with some smaller clients as well as big ones. We work with a sea cucumber company and an alpaca farm. It's super fun. And we're a team of 5 amazing women.
I love that. Craig, it's all yours.
Great. Hi, everybody. Craig Coady. I'm one of the founders here at Venor. Venor incorporated 12 years ago. We're a full services HR and recruitment firm. So we partner with our clients to help them find elite and elusive talent in the market. It's become very competitive. Clients would typically pay us a fee to go out and find someone that ticks the boxes that they're looking for to help scale their businesses. We predominantly have focused traditionally on supporting regional entrepreneurs or in the small to medium-sized private sector, but growing very rapidly the last few years and broadening our executive search and professional services to focus on larger corporate clients, government and related sectors as well. So full services HR and talent firm. It's mostly how we identify ourselves as a talent partner versus a staffing agency or any of the traditional industry labels that we're given. So mostly focus on senior level, professional, technical, and executive roles.
Thank you very much. And Craig, did you always plan on becoming an entrepreneur?
I did not. I'd love to say that I did. I've been doing this for about 25 years. So about halfway through my career, I guess I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My partner and I were working for another large leading player in the executive search and HR space, and just decided that the market would be ripe for another credible competitor. They had the lion's share of the market, and we thought that the market would welcome another credible competitor, as I said. So my career has taken me. I'm originally from St. John's, Newfoundland. I did an HR degree at Memorial. Moved here to Halifax, then moved to Toronto, Ottawa, and Calgary. In Calgary, that was 2007. The market was very robust and aggressive, and I had contemplated going on my own then, but decided to move back to Halifax for family reasons, and that's where I partnered with with Ian Sullivan, my co-founder, and decided to go out on our own then. So started getting the itch, I don't know, about 8 years into it. And once I felt confident that I'd accrued enough experience to offer distinct value proposition to those clients, Ian and I went on our own, and now we've probably got 30 people on the team, and continue to grow.
That sounds fantastic. I'm going to ask the panel here in front of me the same question. Did you guys always think that you guys would be starting your own business, being entrepreneurs?
I like to say yes, because I come from sort of that kind of a background. While my parents sort of worked for the government, they always had like, side businesses. So it was something that was already part of our sort of growing up.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes, I would say yes as well. It was always something that was a goal of mine. But I think kind of as I moved through my career, I was just always hesitant to take that step because it's a terrifying step. And then, the way the situations happened, actually, the pandemic is a lot of the reason why I ended up finally making the jump. Because I think a lot of us really kind of reassessed our lives during COVID. The world changed a lot. And I realized that what I was doing wasn't fully fulfilling me. And I was living in Ontario at the time. I was working in the corporate world in Toronto. And I decided to move back to Halifax, and like, now's the time. So yeah, and that was just over a year ago.
Was the pandemic your motivation?
It was, yes, it was one of the main ones for sure. Yeah.
I am an emphatic no. I remember just a few years ago telling my boyfriend that, quote, I never want to own my own business. And here I am. So yeah, it was never, ever, ever something that I wanted to do. There were a few things that sort of led to me doing this. One was a particular moment. It was when I used to work at a marketing agency before I started my own. And I started as a social media coordinator. And my boss, the manager of social media, had left to go work with another client. And a lot of people were encouraging me to take the manager position, but I didn't want to. I was very much, no, I want to stay in my little coordinator bubble and not worry about other people, not have people that I'm managing. I don't want to be a manager. And then one of my colleagues said to me, I have never seen anyone so reluctant to advance their career in my life. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, maybe I need to take the manager job. So I did. And that keeps coming back to me, like that quote. Reluctant to advance her career. I don't want to be known as someone who's reluctant to advance her career. So that really helps spur me forward, and that's one of the things that led to me starting my own business.
So if you didn't want to be the manager, what advantages and disadvantages then do you see being an entrepreneur of your own business?
Well, one of the things that always bugged me about being an employee was I would see inefficiencies in the businesses that I worked at. And I would flag them and I'd say, you know what, this is an inefficient way of doing this. Here's a suggestion as to how we can do it better. And everyone would say, that's a great idea, Ingrid. We like that. Let's do that. And then nothing would happen. And it happened everywhere that I worked. And it drove me bananas and was the reason that I quit every one of my jobs. Was just that I would see too many inefficient things, and things that are inefficient drive me crazy. So that was another thing when I was sort of thinking about starting my own business. I thought, you know what, if I see an inefficiency, I can change it that moment. And if my staff see inefficiencies and they bring it to me, I can make that change too, so that they're not in that super frustrating position that I was in when I was an employee. So I can make better jobs for people. So sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll have a moment of weakness where I'm just like, oh, I just want a job again. And I'll start looking on LinkedIn or something. And then I'm always reminded, no, you hate working for someone because you hate seeing those inefficiencies. And that is why you are an entrepreneur. Yeah. So that's what keeps me going.
Disadvantages, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, similar kind of vein to Ingrid, I think one of the biggest advantages for me being an entrepreneur is my personality type. I absolutely like to be in control, making decisions, that kind of thing. Also, never been the best at being told what to do, so that kind of fits as well. But to be honest, I think the fact that the buck stops with you is a huge advantage. It's also probably the biggest disadvantage too, because it's everything stops with you, everything's on you. So I think you have to really kind of think about what type of person you are and whether that's something, because regardless of what you do, there's going to be stress, but you just kind of want to choose your stress. And I like that about entrepreneurship. The things that keep me awake at night and the things that stress me out, I have direct control over. So yeah, that's probably advantage and disadvantage. Yeah.
What have you found so far, Ifeanyi?
Advantages of being an entrepreneur for me is being able to walk in my purpose and being able to use my purpose to make a positive difference in people's lives. Because I believe that we're all put on earth for a bigger reason. And one of the things I said to myself is, um, instead of going to work a 9 to 5 and not leave within my purpose or have a reason, or not work in something that is making a positive impact in people's lives, I'd rather go start my own business. And our business, we're in the business of telling positive stories. We're influencing people, encouraging people, inspiring people. Um, so the advantage outweighs the disadvantage, first of all. Now, the disadvantage is obviously, I wouldn't say disadvantage, I'll say some of the challenges, obviously, of running a business, we encounter, which is a lot of things that are out of our control. But one of the things I tell my team is we focus on what we can control. And anything that is out of your control, just leave it to the universe and focus on like you said, what keeps me up at night is what I can control. If I can't control it, is and that there's a long list of it. But above all, the advantage outweighs the challenges, which is the fact that, you know, I'm in a business where I'm living my purpose and I'm aligning with people that sort of have the same purpose.
And Craig, I'll turn the question to you as well. What are the advantages and disadvantages as you see them of being an entrepreneur?
Advantages, the freedom that you enjoy, being able to dictate who you work with in terms of your coworkers, who you work with in terms of your clients. I work for other organizations in my industry before, and they'd say, okay, Craig, you have to service this account. It's a good house account. Well, it might not be a brand I was confident, I felt good about representing. In my line of work, you're only as good as the brand you represent and the experiences that the people you engage with have. And if I'm not promoting brands or opportunities that I feel good about, then it's not as motivating. It's hard to stay on tack. So being able to dictate who it is that we work with and be proud of the brands that we work with and just proud of building our own brand and our own vision and our own values. You get a lot of intrinsic satisfaction that way. Drawbacks, the risk, for sure. My industry is we eat what we kill, they say in our industry. So like I said, I have 30 staff, and if no one accepts the job offers that we roll out that month, then we've got little to no revenue for the month. And there's a lot of potential volatility in your income, which can be very stressful. And the pros of being freedom in terms of your own hours and dictating when you work. The cons would be that you never turn off, and that you're plugged in 24/7. Even going away on vacation with your family, you just can't turn it off when you're at the top of the house and have a lot of mouths to feed that are relying on you. So yeah, I guess the potential financial volatility that comes with that and the stresses that go along that would be the risk, but that makes the rewards that much sweeter.
And I know starting your own business, as you mentioned, can be daunting financially, mentally, in all capacities. Would you, if you had to restart your career, would you do anything differently?
Is that to me?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I would have, I say often, I would have started it earlier. I would have been in my late 30s at the time. I went out on my own. I did so because I was newly married and my wife had seemingly a stable job, a stable management position at a prominent employer. So I thought I could assume some extra risk because of that. And then as soon as I started my business, she lost her job. And then I found out she was pregnant. And then I found out we were expecting twins. And I went from 2 good salaries and 2 mouths to feed to no salary and 4 mouths to feed overnight. Now, it was beneficial that I guess I'd waited because a little bit more financially secure by waiting until my late 30s. But now that I'm in my late 40s, you don't have the same level of energy that you used to. So I wish we'd done it sooner. I wish I'd gone on my own a little bit earlier in my career. But otherwise, yeah, no, that's it. I regret. I'm all of the experience I accrued working in different major centers across Canada has given me a lot more business acumen and wherewithal in terms of industry standards in different markets and perspective specific to Atlantic Canada that makes us successful here. So I'm glad I accrued that experience, but otherwise, yeah, I just would have wished I started sooner.
And down here on the panel, anyone touch on that point?
Um, quite frankly, I don't regret anything. I think everything has happened for a reason because it has made me more seasoned, built character. It has, made me more fearless. It has allowed me to see disappointment as blessings. It has taught me a lot. So everything that I've been through on the journey of entrepreneurship has just been a blessing in disguise. Even at times when I wake up and it feels like, okay, I'm disappointed, I just need to wait it out after some time. Like, okay, there's a lesson there. So I guess I'll say this, like, I don't think there are really failures in life. I just feel that there are lessons if you pay attention. If you're going through it, it feels like, oh my God, this is painful. Enjoy it because no, it's true. Enjoy it. Because you gotta allow the pain to go in so that when you come out on the other side, you appreciate it even more. So I don't really regret anything. I'm grateful for everything I've been through. And yeah.
Yeah, similar actually. Well, similar to both of the previous answers. I do kind of wish I'd have done it sooner because the thing that stopped me from doing this sooner was fear. It was fear of failure. And I had to go through a pretty tough time in my career and really kind of fail to realize that it's not the end of the world if you fail. And as an entrepreneur, you have to embrace it because in every failure, there is a lesson. You do learn from it. There's a favorite quote of mine, actually, by Winston Churchill, which is success isn't final, failure isn't fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And I really have tried to embrace that since I went out on my own in business as well. So yeah, not necessarily a regret, but I think I should have believed in myself a bit more and maybe jumped in earlier. Yeah.
I don't think I would do anything different. Similarly, I think that all of the experiences and failures were all lessons and ended up being blessings in disguise. 10 years ago, my ex-husband left 2 days before our 10-year wedding anniversary, and I became a single mom of a 3-year-old. And, at the time, it seemed like an awful thing. But at that time, I kind of thought that my career was over because I used to be a journalist. And, I kind of resigned myself to just kind of being a mom and working seasonally and knitting and. But then I really like him leaving really meant that I had to hustle to keep a roof over our heads and feed us and everything. And that's what led me on this entrepreneurial journey. So it seemed like a really bad thing at the time. It actually was an amazing thing because it's shot me in a totally different direction. And I couldn't be happier with the way that things have played out.
So I think collectively we're all saying that everything you went through is a lesson into getting to where you are today.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because one of the things when I'm hiring people, I always ask the question, tell me a time when you've struggled. Because I don't want to hire people who haven't struggled before. So I think that's important for students to hear. Um, because a lot of students, sometimes you think, oh, I've had like a hard time and, I have struggled a lot. Maybe you're an immigrant, maybe you, all kinds of things can happen. And I want to hear, like, I want someone who has struggled, and then often people like us, we have more drive to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for in employees. Like, I don't really care about what your experience is in marketing.
Yeah.
I really I'm looking for character instead.
I agree with you. Let me add to that. One of the things that I always say is the best business advisors are those who have failed before. The best, most of the best in anything are people that have failed before. You know, when people come up to you and try to advise you and they've not failed, run away. Because through failure, you build character and stamina, and you lose that thing for fear. Once that goes, then you can conquer the world because now you have clarity. Like the game changes the moment you have failed a few times and you come out of it. And when you come out of it, the victory is beautiful. Like, so, to your point, I like that idea, to I would look for people that have failed. I want people that are vulnerable enough to say, and I've failed many times. I'm not ashamed of saying it. I've failed in so many things, but I've won too, and it feels good. So to be able to have that level, I've even failed in school too. I got a few, but at the end of the day, when the result on the other side comes out is beautiful. So I would be drawn to, if I ever was to go speak to an advisor or somebody, and I say, hey, tell me about you a little bit, and there's no failure, and I'm running away because I don't know your character. It's gonna be, yeah.
In the time, it can be very hard to feel like you are moving forward. Is there any advice that the four of you could give these students that like perhaps are trying to start their business or like thinking about starting their business, but they just don't know where to start because they're feeling like,
Oh, go ahead. You go first.
Okay. So the question is, for students who are thinking of starting a business and
Yeah.
none who are starting afraid and stuff like that.
exactly how to like
Start,
conquer that fear.
start where you are. Start with what you have. Start afraid. Start with the little you have. Just start. That's my advice. Just start with whatever you have. Go register a sole proprietorship. Start. Then the next thing is read. Just read, read, read. Learn. Speak to people. Be social. Network, and then watch the magic. And be ready to fail. That's it. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start with your hands shaking. Whatever. Just start. That's my advice.
Yeah, just very similar. And just to add to that as well, a lot of the time, and even as more seasoned entrepreneurs, I mean, I'm kind of speaking for everyone here, but I'm sure they're going to nod, that imposter syndrome does not go away. There are always going to be times that you're questioning yourself and you're thinking, can I really do this? Most of the time you're thinking, can I do this? You're already doing it, right? You're already doing something to move towards it. So just kind of, keep that vision. To add to what you said about networking and connections, find yourself some mentors. It's huge. I can tell you that pretty much every client I have picked up in the last year, it hasn't come from them looking at my website and things like that. It's come from mutual connections, people that have introduced me. I got very involved. I still am heavily involved with the Chamber of Commerce. Those kind of associations, get out to the events. They all have student memberships available as well. Meet people, because once you start sharing ideas with people that think in similar ways, and people that are in business by themselves, it's really surprising how many opportunities pop up for collaboration, and really just will help you on that journey. So yeah, find some mentors.
I agree with the networking point for sure. I pretty much all of my clients have come through some sort of word of mouth networking. I will talk to anyone about my business, even if they're not my ideal client. Like our ideal client is consumer packaged goods, but I will talk to anyone about my business because they might mention my name in the right room with someone who owns a company that is in consumer packaged goods. The other thing is no one is ever ready to start a business, so don't wait until you're ready. Like none of us were ready, I'm sure. But we just started. So don't think, and I thought that there would be a time when I'd be like, yes, I am ready today to start a business. But that doesn't happen. You just have to go with it. You're not going to be ready. You're going to fail. And that's okay, because you're going to learn from it and you're going to be better. And that's how it goes.
And Craig, did you have any tips for conquering your fears?
Yeah, I'd echo what other people said. Like I alluded to earlier in my career, I moved to Toronto and Ottawa and Calgary and big centers where people were just very aggressive and commercially minded. And I would try to borrow 10 minutes networking with people that didn't know me, and people had no problems telling me firmly no. And you might experience that here, but I do find in Atlantic Canada, Maritimes are pretty gracious and want to help and want to elevate each other, and are big proponents for small business. So people do want to help, and if you'll do it being respectful of their time, I find people locally will lend an ear or give you an hour for a coffee to help get you started and help expedite your traction, more so than some of the larger centers. Otherwise, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs in the last 20 years in my industry. And I'd compartmentalize them a little bit into a few different categories. Some are just very passionate about an idea, some cause, or some innovation and something that really drives them, and that's what gets them up in the morning. Others just see it as the quickest route to making a lot of money, and that's okay too. Embrace whatever it is. Don't try to make it some more noble cause. I mean, ultimately, you'll find something a little bit maybe more altruistic and purposeful down the road. But in the meantime, just embrace what it is. A couple of panelists touched on this earlier. I know lots of entrepreneurs that ended up just stumbling into entrepreneurship because they couldn't work for somebody else, that they just weren't subordinate. It might have been the manager that they had at the time, or after a couple of managers just realized that I just don't like being under someone else's thumb, and I want completely to control my own destiny, and I don't want to be accountable to somebody else. And then there's the category like myself that just found out that they were really good in their industry and felt that they could disrupt it to a small extent if they went out on their own and find some like-minded people. So find out what your why is, find out why you're doing it, and if it's something pretty black and white, like one of the examples I mentioned, then that's okay too. But you need to start somewhere, so you need to start with why you're doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm going to ask everyone the age-old question, I guess now, how has the pandemic affected being an entrepreneur and your business? Especially, Ifeanyi, you said you did like the Mosaic Film Festival. It's very in-person. Like,
One of the best things the pandemic did is it made us start thinking outside the box. Thinking how to innovate. I think it's one of the best things that, oh God, not the best thing that happened to the world, but I think it forced us to. So let me put it this way: when we get uncomfortable, we grow, because growth doesn't come from a comfortable place. So the moment we're put in an uncomfortable position, we're forced to grow. So look at it this way: you're growing up, your feet grows, your shoe is tight, you need new pairs of shoes. That's a good thing. It's a sign that there's growth. So what the pandemic did is it taught us to think outside the box and to evolve. So the film festival actually started as a local festival, but because of the pandemic, it became international because we had to go virtual. So when we go virtual, we get film submissions from different parts of the world. So I'm like, okay, we have something here. So this year we have submissions from 20 countries in the world. So that's what the film festival did. So it taught us how to, evolve and move our business, like our events, make them hybrid. One of our signature events, actually during the pandemic, what we did was we pre-recorded the event, and we supported a local restaurant in Halifax that served people three-course meals in their homes while they watched the pre-recorded gala, which we normally have in person. So it just made us think differently. What that did for us is that we still had our gala where we sit, about 250 people, but now they're in their homes, and now we supported a struggling local restaurant, right? To As opposed to giving that money to the bigger corporate ones and say, hey, and so you're watching the gala, people are receiving their awards, and your doorbell rings, and guess what the people do? They take a picture and they post it driving more traffic to the restaurant. So to answer your question, the pandemic forced us to change the way we think, look at the world from a different place, and be more empathetic too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a huge theme, the empathy towards everyone and what they're going through. And especially like mental health and like life and work balance has been a huge topic of conversation these days. Has the pandemic affected your business perhaps?
Yeah, so it's funny because obviously I started my business after the pandemic, but exactly that was the reason I became an entrepreneur, because I reassessed my life, my work-life balance, and I mean, I was in the automotive industry by the time I was 18. I worked a lot, and it was all I had done was just work, and it really kind of made me think that if I'm going to work this hard and I'm going to put this much of my life into work, then I want it to be mine. I want it to be something that I can create and build and grow, and something that makes me feel fulfilled, that I have a purpose. To go back to your first answer, I love that, to feel that you have a purpose there. So yeah, and I've got to be honest, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't know that I would have been brave enough to take that step. So it was a lot of kind of fear was conquered, and I think I was just kind of the opinion, well, the world might end tomorrow, so I might as well. Yeah, puts things into perspective for sure.
Yeah.
I started my business in October of 2019, so just before the pandemic, and it didn't have a huge bearing on my business because when I started, I was just a solopreneur or a freelancer doing social media. Pandemic hit, and I guess I might have gotten a few more clients because everyone was sort of shifting focus on marketing on social media because they couldn't have people coming in physically. Um, so it might have been a good thing for my business. But yeah, it wasn't hugely impacted, which is probably different than a lot of businesses. It didn't really change a whole lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, everything sounds pretty positive, truthfully, that everyone's businesses perhaps shift towards the better. Craig, is there any COVID impact on your business?
Yes, for sure. I'm still shake my head 3 years later at the roller coaster and how grateful I am that we've come out stronger on the other side. Because I will never forget in March of 2020, sitting down with the whole staff on that first Tuesday when things started to becoming really severe in this part of the world, and assuring all of my staff, we had a staff of 12, and assuring them all that we're going to push through it, we're going to persevere, and no one will be impacted. And then the following Tuesday, I had to call 5 of the 12 and lay them off over Zoom, which killed me because we're a pretty close knit group here. And then over the course of we committed to only temporary layoffs, and by the end of the summer, thankfully, we managed to hire everybody back to get back from 7 up to 12. And like I said, now 2.5 years after that, we're up to 30. It's been due to market demand. The types of roles that we cater to are, software developers, project managers, sales leaders, accountants, things of that nature. Historically, were regionally everybody go in the office every day, and then COVID prompted this work from home climate where there was this narrative in the market that take your talents to the global stage, and firms out of Toronto or New York or California said, we don't care where you live if you're in North America, and we'll pay you competitively based on our neck of the woods. That drove financial expectations up for local talent, and then those clients sought our counsel to said, I'm losing these people to these aggressive offers I can't compete with, please help us. And obviously there were some industries that were very adversely affected, in hospitality and tourism, a whole bunch of them, but most of the industries we service, it just the demand and the gap, I guess, in available skill sets just widened due to the local ecosystem becoming this global ecosystem for talent. So very grateful that it's had it's ultimately had a very positive economic impact on our business. There's still lots of talk about economic downfall heading into this year. We haven't seen it as of yet. Knock on wood. Things could take a turn for the worse tomorrow. So I don't take anything for granted. But just based on the industry that we're in, and now the virtual nature of it, where clients will also, we have several searches, recruits we're doing in Europe and Asia and the US, where historically employers would be skeptical if we could service them in those markets. And now in the virtual culture in 2023, we've got the background, the tools to be able to compete in those markets as well. So very grateful that it's boded so well for us.
Thank you very much. And since the world has shifted so much and we do have a room full of business students here in front of us that are I'm assuming maybe some of you want to start your own business eventually. What is some advice that you folks on the panel could give them when they're going to start their own business?
I'll jump in. I think a lot of it really is believe in yourself. If you have an idea that it's something that you're passionate about and you've got the drive for, really, yeah, believe in yourself, jump in, because the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. And then there's plenty of other opportunities after that. You know, most entrepreneurs have failed several times, all probably. So don't let the fear hold you back, but also be smart about it too. You know, don't just kind of run out there and just fail a bunch. You know, use the tools at your disposal. So back to kind of what I was saying about having mentors, obviously the education that you're getting here. You know, you can mitigate the risk of failure to a certain extent, but if it happens, just get up and keep on moving, right? That's, yeah, best advice I can give.
I would say find a niche and find something you really love. When I started my business, I kind of was like, okay, I'll do, because I wanted to cast a wide net, because I thought, if I'm too niche, and this is usually like how everyone thinks, if I'm too niche, then people won't find me. But if I cast a wide net, then I can probably get a decent number of clients. So I started doing social media, translation, and writing, and quickly figured out that I did not like the translation gigs. I did not like the writing gigs. I just liked the social media gigs. So I niched down to social media and then realized that I don't like doing ads. I like doing organic social. So I niched down to organic social. And once I did that, that's when people would really recognize that, oh, I need organic social media help. I'm going to get someone who is an expert in organic social media. And it brought in so many more clients. And also, it was the thing that I liked the most, which was another reason that I cut out the other things that I didn't really like. I learned pretty quickly to not take work that I didn't like. That happened when I took a client that was creating energy by burning garbage. Anyways, noble effort, wonderful, but just such a nightmare to write social media content about. It's not fun. It's not tea, or alpacas. So I took that job. I did a social media strategy for them and then realized that I did not want to write about turning garbage into energy. And so I pawned them off on someone else. And at that point, I created a poster for my wall in my office that said, when a new client comes, first question is this a social media related job? If the answer is yes, you can proceed. Does this client make you want to dance? If the answer is yes, you can proceed. If the answer is no, then you say no. And so I've been living by that ever since then. Does the client make me want to dance? Yes, I will go ahead and say yes to them. If not, I will say, you know what, it's not the right fit for me, but here are some other people who do a really great job with social media. Um, so I only do things that I like doing. Life is too short to do things that you hate. And I picked a niche, and then people started identifying me as the organic social media expert and the person that they wanted to work with.
Remember the question correctly is what advice for
The new business students, yeah.
Okay. So can I ask a question first? Like,
Of course.
can we be interactive for a second?
Yeah.
Is that okay? All right. My question is, what rules the world? Anybody like what rules the world? Anybody? Who said? I didn't. Anybody has any suggestion? What do you say? Collections.
Connect.
Connections. Okay. Anybody else? We're getting close. Okay. You say Kindness, I like that one. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Power, okay. All right. Ideas rule the world. When you have a good idea, money will come. Idea, people can take money from you, but they cannot take your idea. It's here. It's yours. You have a good idea, money will come, just like you, both of you and the gentleman, money will come, the connections will come. If you look at some of the greatest um, businessmen, not all of them came from money, but what did they have in common? Good idea. So when those ideas come late in the night, write it down. Just keep writing. Wherever you're going, stop. It comes because I always say this: we all have, we are one great idea away from being billionaires. It's the truth. It comes, just write it down. Don't doubt yourself. Just write it down. Don't worry about the money. I'm not, again, you need money, obviously, but first of all, you have to have something great. And as long as it's good, it's viable, the money will come. So I'm saying this to say this, that even if it's an idea for a franchise, because some people argue some people are business people and some people are entrepreneurs. No, it doesn't matter. Even if it's an idea for a franchise, even if it's I'm thinking about a Tim Hortons franchise, write it down. If it's an idea for taking a product, you see something, I say, well, I can innovate on this product. Write it down. Even if it's about a service, let's say, you know how you do organic social media, and you're like, okay, she does. Maybe I could do paid social media. Write it down. Make sure you put your ideas down, and then the next step is look for the ones that are more viable. Then you discuss them with mentors. You discuss them with people that can guide you. But ideas rule the world. The next thing is you need to grow your network. Even as students, you should network aggressively. Aggressively network, because you don't know who you share the idea with. They have the money and said, yes, I was thinking about that, but I cannot do it, but I'll fund it. Your idea has met the investor through networking. You don't have to have $10,000 in your account. No, you at least have your idea, start networking. My dad would say, start thinking of the person you want to become, and then start in your mind behaving, pick the habits of that person. And one day, the way the universe works, you will be that person. As long as you believe, you're intentional, you work at it, you're resilient, you'll be that person.
I don't know how to follow up with that.
I don't know if any of us can follow that. That was a great answer.
Craig, did you have anything to add on?
No, that's a tough act to follow. No, I would just suggest if you're committed to being an entrepreneur, whatever your idea, your purpose, whatever you're going to double down on, make sure it's either something you're really good at or you really love, or ideally both. Because if you're going to do it for 20 years, the ebbs and flows, and just the adversity, it's going to take the wind out of your sails in some days. And if it's not something you love, it's going to be, there's lots of entrepreneurs that have failed. Sometimes it's because the idea didn't have as much merit as they thought, or they couldn't get the financial backing, or it's just because they lost their drive or the enthusiasm just when they were at the finish line of hitting some important milestone to get that investment to scale. So you need to have that passion to be able to drive for it, or something that, if you're not that passionate about, but you're really good at it, you can be very proficient at it, so that it's just easier for you than some, and there's something to be said for that as well. But you will need that type of innate passion and drive to get you through when during just the ebbs and flows of your business.
Thank you. I will just say, Ifeanyi, as well, just online, I do have a couple of comments about your speech here. I feel very inspired from his speech and that they enjoyed it a lot from what you said. I would like to open the floor to questions, if that's all right with our panel. I'm sure there's a lot. I'm hoping that there's a couple of questions to come through. Yeah, the floor is all yours. I have a microphone that I will run to people if they have a question, or if you're online.
Okay, yeah. Your entrepreneurship, is it a limited partnership that you guys are involved in, or is it like a sole proprietorship entrepreneurship? Which side are you guys on, and why did you choose that side of it?
That's a great question. We're an incorporation, so basically, for many reasons, because we have employee, we still fall under the SME, small medium enterprise, but we have employees, and we're structured. We have a parent company because of the structure, basically, in our case. But determining that depends on, I think that would depend on the kind of business. To start out, you just have to register as sole proprietorship. It's cheaper, you know what I mean? Especially if you're not going to be receiving up to or more than $30,000 in revenue.
That's when you start paying.
That's when you start paying HST. So, you want to start out with a sole proprietorship, and yeah, that's my thought. But we're incorporated business.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, because I'm relatively new in my business, like I say, I've just over a year. I am a sole proprietor at that stage, and I took that decision because it is very simple. It's very easy to do. And then the plan is, as I scale and grow, and I bring other employees on, I'll incorporate at that time. But yeah, that's probably the best way to start out, unless you are going to start with, some kind of team or, a bigger scale or a partnership or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, similar for me as well. Started as a sole proprietor, and then as I grew, I incorporated the business. It was just the first year that I was a sole proprietor because it became I made too much money and had to pay $20,000 in taxes in my first year, and so then I had to incorporate because it was a much better financial situation.
And Craig, for you as well, are you sole proprietor,
Yeah,
partnership,
I'm in the same
corporation?
boat. No, we incorporated the gates. I would have a variety of consultants that we second out to clients. If you're an individual and you plan on staying as an individual independent consultant, sole proprietorship is fine. Like others said, you really just need an HST number for paying your taxes, and a sole proprietorship is fine. But if you do plan on scale and building IP and hiring staff, then ultimately incorporation is the way to go. But if you plan on just being a solopreneur for the foreseeable future, then sole proprietorship is fine.
I have a couple questions here online as well. The first one is, what is the panel's thoughts on introverted entrepreneurs? What challenges do you think they will face, and do you think being an extrovert is a requirement to being a successful entrepreneur?
I'm going to jump straight in on this one because I am an introvert. And the way that I define it's funny because people will say to me a lot, no, you're an extrovert, you're comfortable talking in front of people and things like that. But the way that I identify as being kind of an introvert is that I'm somebody that social interactions, they drain my battery, they don't charge my battery. So I have to be very intentional, if I'm going to market networking events and those kind of things. I try not to cram too much into my schedule because I know that it's going to have an effect on my energy and, my kind of well-being in that kind of way. So yeah, no, to answer that question, no, absolutely. You don't have to be an extrovert to be an entrepreneur. I think some of the best entrepreneurs are introverted because they tend to be sometimes maybe deeper thinkers, sometimes overthinkers. But yeah, so I think there's definitely room there for all different personality types for sure.
Is there any way to overcome the challenges?
There is. You just get used to being nervous. it's an emotion that we tend to try and run away from, and we tend to try and run away from situations that cause us anxiety or nerves and things like that. But just, you know, you do it scared, and then it gets less so. I mean, I was nervous to coming here today, absolutely. You know, why? I'm human, right? But embrace it, and don't be scared to show. You mentioned earlier about vulnerability, you know, when we were talking about successes and failures and things like that. Vulnerability is a quality in people that draws other people to you, and really does show strength. So yeah, just embrace it and get used to being terrified, I guess.
Best things come out of your nerves.
Exactly.
I am also an introvert, but it's funny because people, I've been told many times that I seem like an extrovert when I talk about my business because I get super excited talking about it, and it's very easy for me to talk about my business and what I do. However, in all other situations, I'm very introverted. So I think if you find something that really excites you and lights you up, you can overcome those fears. And if you practice, practice your pitch, I guess, and not necessarily your pitch, but just, how you would describe your business, or how you would describe what you're really good at, it gets a lot easier to tell people. And the more events, like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying to talk to people, it's hard. Yeah, I still hate it, but I do it all the flippin' time because it's how I make money. So you kind of got to get used to it.
I have another one here as well. Where is the best place to go networking with successful people?
Yeah, there's lots, honestly. And I mean, you can also, and it's funny because once you actually kind of get out there and you are talking about what you do and you are talking about what lights you up, it will surprise you in where you will meet connections. As far as kind of formalized sort of things, business associations, I mentioned earlier, I'm very involved with the Chamber of Commerce. They have several kind of events through the year. They're very, very supportive. And you don't have to be a business owner to get involved with them either, which is huge. I mean, I think they have membership, student membership options. I think it's like $30 for a year, and that gives you access to all of those events. A lot of the networking events are free, and yeah, you can just go and just kind of mingle and meet some people. Because once you get into those conversations and you find out what other people do and what you're thinking of doing, you will make those connections. So you mentioned it before. You know, it's never too early to start networking, even before you've got your business, because if you can start a business and you've got a list of potential clients lined up already from connections, well, you're probably going to be more successful. So yeah, just jump in.
I'm involved with the Center for Women in Business and Digital Nova Scotia, and I find that they're both really good places for networking. They hold a lot of events, and Digital Nova Scotia has a great newsletter that they send out every week that has all kinds of event listings. Center for Women in Business sends out an email once a month with many different activities that are happening. So those are good resources.
Did you have any?
This is Craig. Sorry, I was just going to jump in and say my main wheelhouse, or the bulk of my professional network locally, is in the tech space. To those asking about introverts, I mean, you go to an event of software enthusiasts, you'll find more than your share of introverts. And I've gone to plenty of events, like Ingrid said, at DNS, Digital Nova Scotia, at Volta Labs, Halifax, and you'll find people there that are trying to network. I try to go up and introduce myself to someone who looks like they're a little apprehensive introducing themselves to other people, just to break the ice and make them comfortable and ask about the business, and find brilliant young minds that way. And as Ifeanyi said, people with some great ideas and just need a little bit of direction and support. So if you're one of those people, get out to those types of events. Like I said earlier, people here are a lot more social and supportive as a community than some of the bigger centers. Also, as someone, I guess, in the recruitment world, obviously I'm a big LinkedIn proponent for professional networking on there. If you're a little bit more introverted, or if you're not, you can refine your search and search by people that are in your industry. have similar skill sets as you, similar stories as you, if you put the time behind it. And then, you know, someone might not want to carve out an hour for a coffee, but they might be open to a Zoom call for 20 minutes for you to feel them out for either their story or pitch your idea. Might be little might be a little more methodical in how many people I quickly equip my idea to if they haven't signed an NDA or anything like that. But that's a whole other conversation. But in general, people are pretty supportive. So if you want to kind of dip your toe in before you're getting out of some of those events, then there are user groups. Obviously, LinkedIn would be the first one, but even, you know, there's professional groups on Facebook for networking for people that are passionate in certain industries, and entrepreneurship in certain verticals that are like-minded and will help you out.
Thank you very much. I do want to ask if there's anybody else in the room who had a question yet. Before I head back on.
So, including myself, I see people who has good ideas, and we started, improvise it, and all of a sudden, somebody or myself, feel that this is not a great idea, or the world is moving fast, so in the future this idea wouldn't be relevant. So I move to the next one very quick, and I improvise that one, and I quick move to the next one. So what advice you guys could give to the people, constantly moving their ideas, but not they're taking the first step, but they're stopping it and moving to the next one, and it's keep happening.
I mean, I think that's almost kind of a natural entrepreneurial quality because you really are thinking strategically, so that's a good thing. You're looking at an idea and you're critiquing it and you're saying, does this have what it takes to stand the test of time? So I think it's a good thing, but it is a line to balance, because then, like you say, you could just end up then just bouncing from idea to idea and then never actually fully execute something. So taking the decision to commit, I guess. And sometimes there is fear that gets in the way of that as well. So I mean, I would just say, again, have those trusted advisors around you, because sometimes you may pitch an idea that you're thinking, I don't think this is that great. And then they just change, they have a completely different perspective and they change your perspective on it and say, well, have you thought about approaching it this way? And then you can find the idea that way. So, having, strategic partners is so crucial. Those people that you can go to, that you can just get some advice from, like Craig was saying, have a coffee with, have a Zoom call with. Because other people's opinions, you might not take their advice, and that's okay too. But having that different perspective will help you, I think, decide, okay, which one you want to commit with. Yeah.
I think the typical entrepreneur is restless, right? When the ideas flow, it's a sign that you're creative, so it's coming in. Now you got to train your mind to stop. It takes a lot of knowing to, because I think everybody has great ideas, but you have to train your mind to process, because you can have four ideas that can be mashed into one. You can have an idea, if you don't actually exploit, you park it, and 2 weeks down the line you go, you see someone doing exactly the same thing, but and then you're like, oh my god, I should have done that. So you have to train yourself to, when when it flows, write it down, train yourself to, from idea to develop. And she mentioned, speak to trusted advisors and see how you can develop it before you park it.
Yeah.
But you can't let it run and just continue. You're just gonna keep packing ideas and then nothing ever happens. But I don't want you to feel like there's something wrong because it's flowing. No. T- I mean, the typical entrepreneur is restless. Like, what our minds race, we have to sort of slow it down. It's okay. You know what? Let's focus on this first, and then we can add on. So that's just, it's a bit of, yeah.
I have actually a question just on that topic, because I wonder if you guys are the same.
Yeah.
because I think we are like that, our minds race and, we're constantly thinking of things. I have my best ideas in the middle of the night. I will wake up in the middle of the night. I used to have a notepad and pen next to my bed. Now I just record voice notes. I reach over to my phone, record a voice note. And sometimes it is it's a problem that you're trying to solve, or you're trying to approach something a different way, make it work. It's when you're in that restful state, because your brain has slowed down, that you kind of can see things more clearly. So, again, if you are struggling to kind of make those decisions, or really kind of sort through your ideas, try and take some time to just, kind of push it out of your head, because then that's where the creativity comes in. Yeah.
I echo that sentiment because it's like when you're faced with a problem, you're in the box. So
Yeah.
you're right in there, and all you can see is, just right inside the box. So when you have ideas like that, sometimes you just park it and allow it and come back to it. And trust me, when you come back, you'll be seeing some totally, you see elements of it you didn't think about the first time, and you see elements that would help you sort of kind of want to move it forward. But I think that the main thing is the fact that finding a way to slow down, and just slow down that process would help.
I have a coach who is not a business coach, but she's more of a life and leadership coach, I guess. So whenever I have ideas or I have decisions to make that I can't figure out what the right decision is, I save them for her and I meet with her every week. And she does not give me advice. She asks me questions until I come to the conclusion that I want to come to. So she asks me a lot of probing questions. Often it is hypotheticals, like, so what would happen if you choose this? And what would happen if you choose this? And then I sort of figure out which decision makes me feel better. So if you can find someone that you can bounce off those ideas, and who can, instead of giving you advice, they can just sort of like ask you questions so that you come to your own conclusions, that is invaluable. If you can find someone like my Michelle, that would be great. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll start another question here online. Did you engage in any form of market research to confirm demand before you started your business? Go right ahead.
I think it's imperative to research, to do extensive research before you um, go into any business, because you have to make sure that there's actually a demand. You know, um, sort of in my case, I really didn't need to do a lot of research because the research was done a lot already. Canada needs immigrants, right? So it
Yeah.
was it was and for me, it was important to sort of share the stories of immigrants who have already come, so that we sort of have a blueprint, so that immigrants who are coming can see that, okay, if these people have, this person has come from this part of the world, or this international student who has come from here is able to go to school, graduate, get a job, and become a leader in the community, I too can do it. So, but to answer your question, it is imperative. You have to know where you're going into. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The only point I want to add is, market research can also look very different. So yes, absolutely, it's an imperative step, because you need to know that the demand is out there for the product that you're offering. Also, competitive analysis is huge as well. But market research doesn't always have to look like surveys and the kind of the official kind of thing you think of when you think of market research. Market research is when you're out networking, having conversations with people that are in that industry, or getting their perspective, really, because what you want to find out, and the whole point of it, is you want to find out what your ideal customers' pain points are and how you can solve them, right? Whether that's through a product or whether that's through a service. And the best way to do that is by talking directly to them. So again, it can be you find out a lot once you actually just start having conversations with people, I find. Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig or Ingrid, did you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, just once you're going, yeah, like I said, people will gladly lend you their ear. I do know lots of entrepreneurs that have built a product and weren't at a point of getting investment yet, and they did their fair share of market research, and didn't do enough and discovered that someone had tried in a similar space and found that there were more obstacles, and it took them several years to get to that point. So that research is imperative to finding out sooner. But I have known people that have gotten their product off the ground with a very modest initial MVP version of their product, and gone to clients and said, if you would roll this out or you would use this, I'll give it to you for free, and with the promise that you'll give me constructive feedback on the features that it's missing, on where what the gaps are, where it's offering value, where it's not. And some people just through trial and error, give it away for free, but it expedites quickly finding that product market fit. And by the time you go to a prospective investor, if you already have that market research as well as some of that customer feedback through trials, then that gives you a lot more credibility that you've done that diligence and have that market feedback.
Thank you very much. Is there any more questions from, yeah?
So I just want to ask, like, every other entrepreneurs, they don't know every single thing. I mean, the every single aspect of the business from the very beginning in the early stage. So just for example, a marketing guy would not know about the operations or the distribution or the supply chain, but from the early age or early time of the business, when it's in a smaller phase, they actually need to cover up the whole thing by their own way, or they need to supervise every single thing. So, what do they actually do if they don't know about that specific thing, but they need to handle it, of course? Do they just get dependent on somebody else, or they just do it by themselves, even if it's a very high risk that they might get it all wrong?
So let me
No,
go.
go
Let
on.
me.
Go ahead.
So when you start out, right, you are the CEO, you're the accountant, you're everything when you start out, and that's because I always say this, right? It's important to learn every aspect of your business, unless, okay, that's another way, unless you have people that can volunteer. I mean, if you have the resources to pay, great. But if you don't have the resources and you have people that can volunteer their time to support you, right, then, you know, you have to do sort of everything. Then as you grow and the business starts making money, then for efficiencies, you can start hiring specialized people in different areas. But when you start out, literally, you are everything. And you should be ready to be doing everything. And one last thing is the beauty about that is you would know every aspect of your business, unless like, the like the boring stuff, like I can't know that's boring, right? But yeah, but you would know everything about your business, especially like it's beautiful to understand every aspect. You start creating what I call the tone, the culture of the business when you start out. And then when people come along, you've already set the foundation and you set the culture. But in the beginning, you probably be everything and embrace it. It's okay. Unless you have people that can, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a learning curve, and look at it as an exciting learning curve, because you are going to learn different skills, and having a good overall knowledge of every part of your business is so important, because unfortunately, you can end up in a situation where you've got somebody working in your business that isn't trustworthy, for example, right? I mean, I struggle with accounting myself. It's not, I don't particularly enjoy it. I do it. I don't particularly love it. I think, you either love it or hate it, I think, accounting. But I mean, you have to be able to understand it, because especially if you've got somebody managing your money, you need to know that things are being done properly. So, and the earlier you can learn those skills, the better. So I think it's good to do everything yourself to start with. And again, as you grow and as you scale, you're going to be able to spend your time more wisely in other areas. So you're going to bring on people. But again, going back to then the importance of having strategic partners, mentors, that kind of thing, they can help you with different areas when you first start as well. And a lot of people, and again, Craig was mentioning about the community that we have here on the East Coast. People do want to see people succeed here, which is not the case everywhere. And people like to help and they like to give back. So never be shy to kind of reach out to somebody that you may have connected with if you think they can help you in some kind of way or point you in the right direction. It's okay to need help and ask for help, and that was probably the biggest lesson I learned when I first went into business. So yeah.
I didn't have any background in business at all. So you all are way ahead of me because you're learning about entrepreneurship. But I knew my craft really well. I knew social media marketing really well. So as soon as I took that leap and launched my business, I became a tenant of Ignite Labs. They're like a startup hub that exists in Yarmouth and New Glasgow, and they also have a location now in Halifax. So that was, you paid $200 a month and you had a desk and you had access to their mentors and their business coaches and, various services for new businesses. So that really helped me because it helped with all the things I didn't know about. So I had a lot of support that way.
That's a really good point because there is a ton of resources out there for stuff, new businesses, small businesses in this area. A lot is free as well. I mean, you've got the BDC, Seed. There's several kind of organizations that they will help you figure out those steps. And again, rely on the resources that are out there. Use them. That's what they're there for.
Thank you. I will just ask Craig if you have anything to add to that before we wrap up.
No, not really. I think the panel covered it well. Other than I also hate accounting with a passion.
That was my first hire, was a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just like to say thank you for the panelists for joining us today. If you guys could all join me and give them a round of applause. I will just remind the students as well, it is a Learning Passport eligible event. To get the surveys done within 48 hours to get your points. They're all on Moodle. Other than that, thank you very much. Thank you, the four of you, for being here. We really appreciate it. Definitely learned a lot and got some insight into the entrepreneurship world. Thank you.